have voted further the vote that was cast by the Republicans. The other factual element or the name of my deputy or anyone else. It is the opinions. We state clearly the position of our country on any question. The position you are returning now president or what president, so I have one choice. We shall democratic that was called for. You are now going to represent his foreign policy. None of this will be happening, for instance, at your convenience, without the text, notwithstanding who anyone voted for or did not vote for. The way our democracy works of the people and has the constitutional authority at the lower level. It is replicated for ambassadors. If we are honored by your confirmation, the procedure then is that the president will formally appoint and commission. At that point, we are extended instruments of the office of the president through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So the president enjoys, I have expressed my gratitude to the president. It takes, in my mind, like I said in my statement, the depth of democratic character, consistent with the way our Constitution is written, to appoint someone who did not campaign for you, campaign for someone else, especially in the first round. Because when he took the oath, I'm sure the president understands that. When he took the oath, he became president of the Republic of the standard bearer of our party. He remains the standard bearer of the standard, but now acts as president of the republic. And so those who may have campaigned for him, those who may have not campaigned for him, those who may have voted for him, those who may have not voted for him, must see him as president of the republic with all rights, privileges, and authority of that office. And part of that authority is to conduct the foreign policy of the republic. I am honored, and many Liberians should feel proud, that our politics is graduating to a place where you do not necessarily have to campaign for a president, but that when that person becomes president, he will not act to exclude you or deny you for that which he believes you are qualified to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Snow. Please, Garawe, please. We will go to the pro tem emeritus, our chair. But let me ask you one question. I know I will come to ask questions. I just want to ask you one question. You tired, Sovereign? Don't answer you until I come.
Senator Snow covered a lot of issues that myself had, so I'll be very brief. My question goes to both of you. Liberia is seeking a seat, non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council for Africa. So Liberia has to convince the African continent. But a lot of African countries, like South Africa, they have concern. They don't want to send a country to represent them on the UN Security Council. And every vote America takes, the country follows suit and takes that vote. That's one of the concerns of some of the African countries. Have you heard that? If so, how do you hope to handle that?
So, one of the issues that has me hopeful and inspired is interacting with the quality of experience I see on the other side of this nomination. You call me nominee, I see together. That's what I said in my statement. Is help Liberia again lead from the front. One of the things we are respected for internationally, big or small countries have looked to us for leadership. After 2 world wars, when the world was trying to figure how it would move ahead. Yes. Okay, so now we took a critical vote at the United Nations. Liberia was head of the African group. By the way, I was the longest serving member of the African group. In January of that year, of the vote, it's important for you to understand that. I understand what I'm saying, but in January of that year, President Sirleaf, at the AU meeting of heads of state and government, agreed, the Liberian government agreed with the colleagues that on 2 things, solution for Israel and Palestine. That the two must exist side by side. This was an over 60-year-old position for the resolution of the conflict in the Middle East. The African Union, to which Liberia was
also agreed that the capital must remain in Israel because Jerusalem was contested by both the Palestinians because of religious reasons. And therefore, when the vote came to the floor of the General Assembly, as any ambassador, worthy of being called ambassador, would do, we deferred to our capital. The common thing in New York and every other place is you listen to your colleague, and then what you do is I will refer your situation to Monrovia for advice. When the government reviewed its position at the African Union, the government advised a vote at the General Assembly that the U.S. government did not feel Liberia should have taken. And I tell you this, Senator.
When was that?
This was the vote for which the former President Weah claimed he removed me and he instructed something else. But this was under President Sirleaf. This was around December.
But speak about the recent vote
I've abstained from. So I cannot speak for that which I recently don't know and didn't participate in as well. But what I can tell you, Senator, is when Liberia name was announced and Liberia vote was pronounced to the hall, it was an uproar by the African group. When Liberia voted no, I was in Monrovia and getting texts from the floor from African colleagues that said Liberia made a mistake. You know, these things are linked. Senator Snow asked my distinguished colleague, what will he do differently? The real question is, what is Liberia prepared to do differently? To respect itself as a sovereign nation, capable of making decisions in preservation of its own best interests. There's very little an ambassador will do to shift U.S. policy position to Liberia. But if we campaign successfully and we are viewed as a respected voice with some degree of independence for positions we will take, I assure you the U.S. will respect Liberia. But if your vote is perceived to continuously be one that is pro forma in favor, that you don't even need to consult Liberia, that Liberia will blindly vote as one other country will vote, you undermine your own respect in the international, and that country's own perception of you gets undermined. Countries seeking economic development position themselves, including at the United Nations, to be respected first. Dr. Nkrumah said, seek ye first the political kingdom. In diplomacy, seek ye first diplomatic relevance. Visa and other things will be added onto you. But if you have no diplomatic relevance, if your vote is merely seen as perfunctory, sanctions will be removed from you. But again, everything I listed, I am convinced and confident that we have a new chief architect for foreign policy. We have a new foreign minister. And I see we have a robust foreign affairs committee that intends to be engaged. And if this committee, as I'm hopeful it will do, continue to be engaged with Liberia foreign policy and involved in the determination of that foreign policy, the day will not be long
when Liberia will not just lead from the front, but be respected by all nations of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. Mr. Senator, this is not a new question. It is a question that was steeped in the very formation of the then Organization of African Unity. In fact, before 1962 or 1963, when you had these two groups, you had the Monrovia group of countries and you had the Casablanca group of countries. Of course, Liberia, then under President Talbot, headed the Monrovia group of countries, because the question our African colleagues were raising, of course, it was in the greater context of the African unity and not positions, as you've said. Liberia's view then was that, we have to lead, we have to respect. It's a gradual process, and we have to respect the various sovereignty of our various states. And then, of course, in 1964, when President Talbot decided, in one instance, upon these frontier issues, because our frontiers were attacked from both points. You had the Anglo-Liberian Boundary Commission and the Franco-Liberian Boundary Commission. He called the two groups and said, look, we have the OAU now. We have to respect our brothers. We have to have a common position on Africa. And he dissolved the both commissions. So the 43,000 square miles that we have today was a result of that. So that has been the raison d'etre of this common African position that we have today. And then, of course, Liberia is a signatory to that and to the 2052 Africa agenda. So the question as to whether they are dissatisfied, I will try to remind them of Liberia's role as outlined earlier. If you read, for example, Nelson Mandela's Long Road to Freedom, he has an entire chapter there on Liberia, where he said and this epitomized one of the conservative role that Liberia played, of course, behind the scenes in supporting African liberation movements. He said in that book, he came to President Tubman, and because he needed a passport, and then of course the president granted him the passport and some very good sum of money that helped. That was one instance of Liberia's what we call type 2 diplomacy, because that's what Liberia has been doing. Type 2 diplomacy, which means diplomacy behind the scene to solve the problem of apartheid. And they know this. Our African brothers and sisters know this. I think the question has been, so this vote that you see that is taking place is steeped into what I just said. I think before the 2000s, it was steeped in realism, what is called in foreign policy realism. And that realism, whether we like it or not, acknowledge the fact that we were a very strong ally of the United States, and because, as I wanted to say, but Senator Stroh stopped me, I wanted to give the historical justification for that, the diplomatic cover that the United States provided to our sovereignty for very, very many years. But the United States also respects the sovereignty of Liberia. I think there were the time when our former presidents explained to them that this matter that is before us, we have decided to go by the African common position, and the United States respected that. So I think although our policy is steeped into realism, the United States also respects our sovereignty and allows us all the time to make our position clear, although sometimes we adopt the strategy of strategic ambiguity. And that simply means that, when he was saying sometimes, what happens when the vote is placed and what does the ambassador do? Believe me, whatever that ambassador does, the talking points come from the chief architect of our foreign policy. And under our constitution, that chief architect is the president of our republic, and the implementing arm is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The ambassador on his own cannot make any decision outside of that. So, but the answer to your question is, to our African brothers and sisters, we have a legacy of African liberation, and as a state, we adhere to the common African position, the CAP, which is a strategic framework that we've signed to, that is provided by the African Union. And on critical matters, we always vote according to that CAP framework. Thank you very much.
So I'll go to transitional justice. As ambassador to the United States, if you are successful, and okay, first of Mr. Brown, you were in this position before, and sometimes when we go to plenary or report, they will ask for performance report. So I would like for you to, not to answer me now, you can send it to the committee, a report of your performance for the time you stay, and why you want to go there now. Okay? If you write a committee for that report, in case plenary asks for it, what your successes and what were your constraints. So both of you will be explaining to the international community and to the United States and everybody on the transitional justice process in Liberia vis-a-vis the establishment of the War Crimes Code, the Economic Crime Code in our country. Have you read the joint resolution of the legislature that contains the position of the legislature? And in reality, the position of our citizens, because we represent them. Joint resolution number 001-24.
Honestly, no, I have not. Yes, Senator, the legislation was grappling with the true justice mechanism.
implementing this through transitional justice framework to finally bring kind of restorative justice to Liberia.
Last question on. Let's move on.
Senator Jim, I want to follow that on the issue of economic overview. Whether you ready to draft a resolution or not, it is the position of this government for the establishment of the war and economic control. We take steps as a legislator, and the president has taken steps to enhance those steps by the legislature. So what do you get with the resolution on that? Do you believe the establishment of the War Economic Crimes Court as a follow-up to Senator Chia's question?
Senator, let me put you in perspective.
Yeah.
Our resolution says 2 courts, so let me let you know that. I didn't cover 1 court.
Yeah, the one said the War and
So I
Economic
will add to
Crimes
the court.
The War Crimes Court is
Yeah.
separate and the Economic Crimes Court is separate. The wisdom of the legislature is that economic crimes are not committed only during war times.
Right.
There are always economic crimes,
Right.
and even in the future. So we didn't want to make 1 court for war and economic crimes court, and after prosecution for war crimes, then that court probably does not exist. But economic crimes issue will always exist. So that was the wisdom of the, especially the Senate. But in follow up to that question, that's what I'm asking, the both of you.
Yes, I support the establishment by the government of Liberia, whether through the Senate and the steps taken by the president, which has been publicly announced, to establish the War Crimes Court and the Court for Economic Crimes. You can count on me, and if you wish to know, I support it 1,000%.
Well, my answer, although Senator dismissed what I was trying to say, but sometimes we use these colorful languages, and I don't think we're on the same page. When I talk about retributive and restorative justice and the blend, obviously the president has started taking action by appointing the executive director for the office of the of the WECC, and as a diplomatic agent of Liberia, of course, just like my colleague said, we are fully in compliance, in alignment with implementing this policy. Yes, I'm answering for myself. Yes, definitely. So the answer is in my answer is in the affirmative. I'm in support of the action taken by our president.
So, the last question. The U.S.
Africa Command is presently based in Germany, and I've heard rumors, unconfirmed reports that there are discussions for Liberia to be considered for that to move to Liberia. Will you support that? Or what are the positive side to it and the negative side to that? If that works.
This is a national security issue, and I've not been privy to the national security concerns, but what I can say as a diplomat is that you have to remember, Senator, that although some people see it as an advantage, there was a time when all of the strategic American security, well, not all, but some of them were based here in Liberia.
I think we're all born in time and we know the story. I don't have to elaborate. So I think if this, the location of the command, it's a security, it's a national security decision, and it's a diplomatic agent of government. I would have to wait for the appropriate decisions to be made because my job is to implement that decision once I become privy to what the government, the direction of the government. Thank you, sir.
Senator, you require an answer from me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Senator. My answer is essentially the same. My job, the sum total of our jobs, will be to represent the decision of the government externally. We do not, and should never pretend that we will be involved in all of the internal mechanisms to develop that decision. So I trust that committees on defense, national security, even committee on foreign affairs, because foreign affairs is an extension of security, will be involved with the executive in reviewing all of the details. And once you are done, you will make the final decision and make that decision available to us to represent on behalf of the government and people. So this is the way it is supposed to work. We will not be in New York, fly here for every cabinet meeting or every legislative meeting. But once it is done through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we will be directed as to what the position of the government is, what justifies those positions, and then you can be sure we will fully, ably, passionately represent the position of the government in the rest of the world.
Thank you, Senator Chu. We will take Senator Jimbo Smith, Senator Limneti Patikwa, and Senator Lotrawa in our order. Senator Rebel Brown, then before Senator. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, Jimbo Smith, Patikwa, then Rebel Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nominees, congratulations for the perfect presentation. My background is to ask questions. So my first one will be short. I have 3 concerns for you. I want for us to go back to this issue. Senators know that the government is Senator Chi and the board. What would be the intention or disadvantage if regional interest and interest of the United States clash on an international issue concerning, quote unquote, the historical relationship between the United States and Liberia. That's my first concern. My second concern, I see a lot of NGOs coming in our country, going in the interior, in the counties, talking about protected forest, talking about carbon projects. There has been a discussion who I support some of the positions that the issue of preserving the forest for carbon purpose in Liberia should be a conversation between Liberia and the rest of the world, the United States, the European Union, the United Nations, instead of NGO projects. That at the end of the day, in the middle of the road, the NGO project will suffer donor fatigue. And so if the rest of the world, because Liberia still accounts for 40%, Liberia still accounts for 40% of the rainforest in West Africa. And if the rest of the world will want Liberia to preserve that forest for carbon purpose, it's supposed to be a conversation between Liberia and the rest of the world, and for it to be NGO projects. How do we intend to innovate outside it? Finally, Ambassador Brown will be going to the United Nations if it is confirmed, as well as Ambassador Conte will be going to the United States if it's confirmed. There is the hanging cloud from the position of the newly elected president of the United States. There are hundreds of Liberians, because I know hundreds of Liberians will be affected with this deportation threat. Have you started a discussion with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs vis-a-vis the government when you go and you are confronted with this serious problem of deportation?
So, thank you, Mr. Senator. Concerned as I am as well, and as many Liberians as I know, may likely be affected by the announcement during the campaign, and we start to see steps being taken in the U.S. for a mass deportation. I will defer, that being mostly bilateral matter. I will defer to a distinguished colleague who I hope you will confirm to begin to handle that. But in passing, all that I will say is it is and will be too presumptuous of us, either him or I, to take on a role for which the Constitution requires you to first confirm. What will be the basis for either of us to even begin to engage with our Ministry of Foreign Affairs on what its position will be on these mass deportations. The second clarification I'd like to make is that should you honor us with your confirmation, that confirmation assigns us outside our country. So we are ambassadors, we are diplomats. They got this saying in diplomacy, you are not a diplomat at home. At home, I'm Louis Brown, an ordinary citizen. Should you confirm me, at the United Nations, I will be an ambassador and diplomat of the Republic of Liberia. So the extent of my authority is outside the bailiwick of the Republic. Within the bailiwick, I cannot put a diplomatic plate on my car. I understand Senator Dillon will call me for a hearing by this committee, and he will be ready to hold me in contempt. So the point is, we are taking a step-by-step process. I will strongly urge this committee, because this too is a foreign affairs matter. It's a security matter. Liberians may be returned home. I don't wish we would take this lightly. I would urge this committee to get seize of this matter and begin to engage with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with the President. I would suggest the specialized agencies of the related ministries, the specialized committee that you will be involved in, come together quickly to begin to consider the impact on Liberia of a return of thousands of these citizens. You need this government, cannot stop Liberians, whether they are mass deported or not, when they arrive at the Roberts International Airport. What will the government do? This is a matter with which I would urge you to be strongly engaged and not take for granted. On carbon harvesting, my concern has often been, we have an asset that the world hopes us to conserve. An asset it has absolutely no value unless and until the owner of that asset believes in its value and acts to protect its value. So for you to suggest that the government is dealing with NGOs in lieu of its asset that the world needs, I respectfully propose that your committee on agriculture, as you were introduced, this committee on foreign affairs, and others get together quickly and pass policies on the preservation and conservation of assets of the Republic of Liberia that the world needs. My mom used to say, if your friend will call you who you call yourself, you call me Louis Brown because I call myself Louis Brown first and introduce myself as something. This country has assets. We must figure out how we manage it well And if the world pushes that we conserve it, then we must act so the world realizes that it has value to us and to them. And the world is ready to pay for that value. Are we ready for the world to pay for the value? Is the question we should be asking ourselves. So that's my response on the counter harvesting. Now, we will hope that there will be no clash of interests. When the government of Liberia has to take a position on any international question, we will hope that there will be no clash of interest, because the primary interest must always be that of the government and people of the Republic of Liberia. The United States, there is a saying in diplomacy, there is no permanent friend, but there is and must always be permanent interest. We have a defined foreign policy. We have a defined foreign policy objective: economic, social, political development. In the pursuit of any international question and position, the world, the United States, our allies, our friends, our neighbors will first expect that we will act in the preservation of our own best interest first. That is what the United States does. And this does not mean we will not consider all of the attending factors and circumstances. But that when the president, perhaps after consultation with you, leaders of the legislature, direct representatives of the people, when the president makes a decision and communicates it through the Minister of Foreign Affairs to us at posts, your expectation must always be that you must be convinced that that will be what we will do, is to defend, first of all, proudly announce the position of the government of Liberia and defend it to the best of our ability with all of the reasons provided by the government of the people of Liberia. That is what you must expect of us. And I will encourage you to believe that we will do it. How you make the decision. Ambassadors are outside people. We will count on your wisdom in making every decision for this republic. Preserving first is best interest. And you can count on us to articulate it and defend it. Every ounce of quality and capacity we have. That's the way I'm answering for this.
You will note that the hearing is proceeding smoothly without much interruptions and business. You will explain as much as you want to explain. We will sit here all day and then we will determine that we will continue the hearing. It depends on the longevity of your responses and how you want to respond. Will determine to continue the hearing. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just don't want to show the committee any intent of disrespect and not exhaustively answer. But
I appreciate that. Normally, I'm comfortable with hearing 2-3 hours and it's done.
Thank you.
So, this committee always
but we'll do our best with the notice you have provided to be as brief as possible. Thank you.
Just briefly, so Senator Smith, the question that you asked, we will work very hard to make sure that our citizens in the United States who are in various categories, some are undocumented, some are under the category of the EEA program, forced employment interaction, U.S. government and Congress, to ensure that we follow the rules and regulations of the United States, put them on the path of, of getting their legal statuses of residence in the United States. And as I said, as diplomatic agents, there are rules and regulations that you have constraints. That there are things that you can do and things that you cannot do, but we use all the opportunities at our disposal to make sure that our citizens pursue the legal channels that are available in the United States to ensure that they have a smooth path to residency and ultimately citizenship in the United States for those who qualify. On your second question about the NGOs, carbon credit, protected forests, and so on, the short answer is for Senator Dillon said we shouldn't be precise.
I just said what you go ahead, file it down,
yeah, I'll be brief. Our environmental protection agency is leading this process. They are concerned about three things: preserving the environment, preserving our resources, and preserving our ecology. And we just left from a conference and we participated in all the fora. And we have signed all the agreements, to protect greenhouse gases, the effect of greenhouse gases. Of course, we don't have, scientifically speaking, we don't contribute much. You are absolutely right, because we have the forest, the last remaining green forest, and so on and so forth. But the EPA is taking this process, and this is different from the NGOs that you mentioned. The NGOs, yes, they have their own agenda, they are registered in the country, and they have to observe the rules and regulations. Some of them receive support directly. Of course, the support comes to the government, but it has to go through their partners that prefer giving money to NGOs. So we don't have any problem with that, as long as they respect the laws of Liberia. But our EPA is on a strong path, on a different conversation to respect those three things that I talked about. And with respect to your first question, the advantages and disadvantages regarding the clash of American interests, as I said, our foreign policy is steeped in realism. Whether we like it or not, we are historically a small power, and the United States is a big power. I think we have to realize that. And there are so many things that happen, that affect our security, for which the United States has been historically a guarantor of Liberia, and that process is likely, to continue. But having said that, as we said, the United States respects the sovereignty of Liberia, and as a small power, meaning, we don't have all of the wherewithal, that the United States has, but we are secure and reliable partners, and you will be surprised. I'm sure you know, Senator, that sometimes the United States consults, even though we have a small power. Because several times in Abuja, as the chair of the PRC, when the United States.
So what is PRC?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Senator. The Permanent Representative Committee.
Yeah, go with PRC here before. So we got a big plan.
Yeah. The Permanent Representative Committee. Senator.
And the ambassadorial level.
Yeah, the Permanent Representative Committee. That is the first level of decision making respect to that question, that advantages and disadvantages, I think we have to be realistic. And this would be my advice as a diplomatic even to our legislature. Because whether or not we like it or not, that is where we find ourselves in international affairs. This doesn't mean that we cannot reaffirm our sovereignty on issues. As I was saying, I'll give you an example. I've been honored most times when American delegations come to Abuja. The first thing they ask is to the chair of the PRC to find out what Nigeria's solution is on regional issues, things like that. So there are consultations and immense respect, for Nigeria. So it's not like, and with respect to the disadvantages, for instance, like now when we have this problem with the, the withdrawal of these three countries, and their attempt to supplant, the American forces that are within their territory. I think one of the disadvantages is that the entire West African region is at a disadvantage because we don't have a full capacity to fight terrorism. That's number one. And then number two, the states that are involved are looking east, which is, outside of our realm. It's outside of our realm. There are a lot of pieces and a lot of things going on there. But this issue, this threat is spreading very, very quickly because we see it spreading to coastal countries. And, you don't wait until your house is on fire before you start talking. You have to get involved in that from the ECOWAS Parliament. We have been involved in that from the PRC. I think we all should put our hands together to make sure that such disadvantages, because the presence of American forces is not only to protect American interests, but it was severe advantages, several advantages that we could benefit to stem this flow of terrorism, this threat that we now have in our sub-region. That's just to give you one example. Thank you very much.
Senator Bravo Brown. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. I have to congratulate you all for your nomination. I could always remind us that this exercise is scrutiny and determination. Fortunately for me, you are all
Of such assistance is it Liberia that decides its priorities, or the donor decides, no, you say yes, even though you have these priorities.
Thank you, Senator. What happens is that states in their primary regulations usually set up what is called joint commissions or binational commissions. And this process is driven by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Nationally, it includes embassies that are accredited to Liberia. So in the case of Liberia and the United States, there is a binational commission, and it is in that commission that both states sit around the table and decide the priorities of government, during which the government will say, this is our development plan, and this is our priorities. Those priorities will be discussed by
the donor country, and foreign assistance are provided. But it's always taken into consideration. That's sitting around the table, around either this joint commission or binational commission. That's how it works.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Is that the answer?
You want an answer?
Ambassador Brown?
You know, I'm sorry if I will quote my mom plenty here today, but there's a popular saying, so she will repeat, that beggar can be chooser. There is the process that has been described by my eminent colleague. Of course, the Minister of Finance will more clearly speak to the reference you made to the $114 million,
260 million.
and the 260 million. We certainly cannot. But like he described, there is usually the government makes a case as to its priorities, and then a donor country supports. Don't forget also, that's their countries, that's their citizen taxpayers' dollars. Usually they tend to accompany it with conditions and particular things they may be interested in supporting. So that is what I will say to that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe to me, for those of you that are representing our country, if you are to be considered by this August body to represent us, you know our priorities. So when huge money is being used in the country and the impact is not being felt, then of course we need to relook at our priorities. My second question is, the nominee Brown, our country currently is vying to be considered as a non-permanent member of the Security Council. You were there at that mission. What is the benefit of becoming a non-permanent member of the Security Council that Liberia will accrue should we succeed?
So, thank you, Mr. Senator. The best way I will try to explain this is to use the Senate as a reference. Just like the Senate does its work through committees, the General Assembly, let me just say the Senate, the legislature as a whole does its work through committee, either house. The General Assembly of the United Nations, if you look at it as the legislature, does its work as well through committees. One organ of the United Nations is the United Nations Security Council. That council is responsible for the maintenance of peace and security. When UNMIL was here, it was that council decision, along with a recommendation from the Secretary General, that brought UNMIL to Liberia. There are 5 members of the Security Council that are considered permanent. They're there. Each of them get veto power. Then there are 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council. Now, because the Security Council is the highest organ of the UN responsible for international peace and security, membership to that council is considered very prestigious. It has a lot of work, because even on Sunday they can meet, but it's considered very prestigious. The General Assembly is what you call universal representation. Every country, 193 member states, the latest was South Sudan, 193 member states are there. Everybody with equal representation. The Security Council, on the other hand, has, at a particular time, only 15 of the 193. So you can imagine, if I can bring it home a little bit, Senator Dillon chairs this Committee on Foreign Affairs. Although he is a representative of the people of Monserrate County, he's a senator for the people of Monserrate County, his value is added being chair on foreign affairs. If the president, for instance, or the Minister of Foreign Affairs wanted to make a decision concerning foreign affairs, even if they don't reach out to the entirety of the committee, they will try to reach out to the senator who chairs the Committee on Foreign Affairs. The same is true. Extend that to the United Nations. Now, Liberia will be representing the largest bloc in the United Nations. There are 54 countries that make up the African bloc. That's 28% of the total membership. Only 3 countries will represent Africa at a time. What happens then is that if there is an issue, for instance, in Congo, and this 1961 was the only time Liberia ever served on the Security Council, even though we were a founding member. 1961, countries that came later, some of them have said, I mean, when I call some of the countries me, you feel bad. How could we have done it only one time? In 1961. And at that time, we're resolving issue in the Congo. It was one of the biggest issues. Belgium and the Congo, you know the history. But the point here is, even for Liberia's foreign policy objective of economic and political development, your value in the world is enhanced by whether or not other countries need to talk to you. There are representatives at the UN that nobody wants. You don't rush straight to talk to them, except maybe voting time. Dear Barack, in your country, please vote for me. He say, I will consult my capital. But when you own the Security Council, your relevance in the world is multiplied. You can't walk the street because somebody will be chasing you. Is it possible for us to meet? Because the world is beset with challenges. And the Security Council is that body. Even though you're there for just 2 years, but the Security Council is that body that presides.
So in short, it's beneficial.
It is extremely beneficial,
Yeah.
and will help Liberia meet its foreign policy objectives.
Your diplomat, you're more than politicians in arriving somewhere. Yeah. We informed that this hearing is live on ELBC. Every time this committee is holding these interactions, we make sure that the public follows and it is informed. Manere in Warasa right now, or Relay, or in my area in Ghana, she asking, when we on Security Council, what will benefit her? I want you to answer before Mamere.
So, Mary, who just talked to the chairman? When you going to the market to buy something, your value to that woman you're going to buy the thing from is seen as whether or not you can buy it. There are some people that when they come into your market, they say, how much for the day? My brother pass, man. People been sitting in this sun hours and getting out and they can ask me, you really somebody who can out to buy something? Hey, my brother, don't waste my time. There's some woman there when you go to the market, how much for the day? Some that tea. But there are some men when they are approaching from far, or some women approaching from far. Hey, my sister, can you look at my market? My Mary, when I broke down the Security Council, they will be running behind you for far play. Hey, my brother, can't help you. Because the Security Council is so important to the world. First of all, it's a historic point of prestige. We who have to form this group. Only one, in fact, we resigned 1961. 1961 was the only time. Sierra Leone just coming off. Sierra Leone. So, the point I'm trying to make is, some of the things people talking say, oh, they are giving Liberian visa, oh, they put you in the sun, oh. I said to Senator Snow, Senator, the value business, you know, when your voice strong in the world, some people say, oh, the man, let talking, talking. Your voice not going to be weak when you're talking for country. Your voice is going to be strong. Especially at the UN. They didn't like weak voices. Your voice will be strong. Then the people want to say, my brother, can we talk small? And not for you they're talking for. It's for your country vote. Even though you're not permanent means your vote is, you don't get veto power. And you're there for 2 years. But the fact that you're there and 100, okay, if you're 15 and at 193 countries, do the math of all the other people that are not there. But all of them get problem that they want the Security Council to hear. Yeah. So, man, do you understand that?
Thank you. So, just approaching the end of my. As a developing country, we are faced with this issue of the. From your experience, how will you advise Liberia to be positioned?
Well, historically, Senator, Liberia is a member of the non-aligned movement of countries, and we've always been a strong member of that organization, even though some would argue that after the passing of President Joseph brought Tito and the dismantling of Yugoslavia. There's a new reality in the world today as far as the non-aligned movement is concerned, and you don't hear his voice anymore.
Always mentioned is realism. Foreign policy is steeped into realism, and we historically have subscribed to the founding of this republic to values and principles of democracy and liberal democracy that are strongly aligned with the use that term, the West, or if you like. So that's where we are. I think it's because of the alignment. It's not so much a question of choosing, but our values and principles, core values, align with the core values of Western democracies. And that's the realistic situation that we are in. And so, when it comes to, of course, these issues, I know they are being confronted now and then with the issue of China. We've been confronted with the issue of not so much Russia. I think Russia, the question came recently when our deputy minister went to Moscow for that conference. But the issue has always been China, and we have been emphatic in our foreign policy that we stand with the one China policy. And of course, the United States respects our sovereignty and they respect our decision on that, but that hasn't changed. But overall, our values, the values of this republic from its founding to the present, the core values are strongly aligned with liberal democracy, human rights issues, etc., etc. I don't know if that answers your question.
So, your advice would be to advise the real
Well, as I said, the non-aligned movement is still there, but yes, of course, we are non-aligned. But what I'm trying to say to you is that our value orientation is liberal democracy. Liberal democracy, that also guides us on a case-by-case basis what to do when this debate comes up. But nevertheless, irrespective of that, we have taken a very firm position. When it comes to, as you know, the world is multipolar today. We have a one China policy. When the issue came up about Russia the other day in the papers, the foreign minister mentioned the issue of the report. Our policy has been changed. This was just a conference our delegation attended. But of course, as part of the realism,
Mr. Ambassador,
yes.
I asked the question because at some point in time, your colleague was maybe out briefly and they considered to come back. But I think this country's interest was affected at several points just because of our stand in taking decisions on the international scene. That's why I asked you are experienced people going back there, and I think you should be guided by those experiences and know how to position, or even if you are to consult. But in consulting, because you are there practically, you can advise appropriately. I think this will be more beneficial to our country. That's what I call. But let me ask this question. I've heard that on the ECOWAS secretary, there are not much agreements What do you think is responsible?
I think this question is a persistent question, and it requires understanding of how ECOWAS itself works in the truth. Because there are statutory positions that are allocated between the member states, and the allocation of those positions no, I was saying, Senator, can you hear me now? Yeah, I was saying that this is a persistent question that is based on understanding of how ECOWAS itself works. There are statutory positions that each country is entitled to that are based on the ECOWAS protocol. There are several protocols dealing with this. Say, for example, if you take the president of the ECOWAS Commission is based on alphabetical president, and when your time reaches, you assume that position. It's the same for the commissions, subject to other things like the payment of your community levy and things like that. Because we have been lucky that we've always, although we've been behind, but we've always paid something so that we've not reached the stage where we've been suspended. And then there are other positions. There are other positions, the non-statutory positions, that are competitive. And what ECOWAS does is that ECOWAS outsources these positions to a private firm. Because several times Liberians have come to me and said, well, look, this thing is available, I want to apply for it, but it's competitive. You have to go on the ECOWAS website, you apply. We don't even know the names of those. They don't disclose the name. And so it's a question of competition, and also we have to do a greater job in advertising those positions here in Liberia. Because so that our people are aware. I think that's one of the things that have been lacking. Because we have qualified, we have hundreds of graduates coming out of the universities. And I always say at our convocations that these are some of the brightest candidates in the world who can compete everywhere. But if they don't have the information, so I think the information is to provide. But you are right, for the non-statutory positions, we don't have many of that. It's subject to the rules.
It is that your successor, if you are to be confirmed by the Senate, if your successor needs to be advised to maybe engage the process of really making those opportunities new on the in Liberia, so that Liberians can avail themselves to that. But my next question is to Honorable Brown, Nominee Brown, is that others have asked this question, and maybe I want to again. You were at the UN, yes. To me, I would really love that you would, even though they say you were Senate, but in the summary form, what were really your achievements during your stay? I don't know how long you stayed, and that would serve as encouraging factors for this August body to renew your confidence.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. The resume I submitted, the first item under professional experiences provides a précis of my tenure as permanent representative of Liberia.
This was 2016. I believe it was around June. 2018, I believe it was around early September when I left.
So, if I can just quickly review, it says in this period, Liberia successfully negotiated with the Security Council a 1-year extension. Just as our election was about to happen, remember, I think the election of 2017, just about then I got instructions from the Foreign Ministry that the call of UNME had begun withdrawal. And that withdrawal process on the eve will not be the best thing for Liberia's security going into the election, which was going to be contentious, as all elections are. So we were instructed, and we successfully negotiated. At the time, I should add, the Security Council had determined that because UNAMSIL, that was the United Nations mission in Sierra Leone, UNAMSIL. Lunch break after 3 o'clock.
Consideration.
Thank you. So to run through it quickly, we negotiated the extension of UNMIL presence in Liberia to assist provide security for the conduct of the 2017 election. Although the Security Council had determined that with the withdrawal of UNAMSIL, Liberia was ripe for similar withdrawal.
Honorable Brown, in the interest of time, we'll follow the lead from Senator Augustine Chie so that you can submit. So you can submit that to the committee. Meaning your performance.
Thank you.
Your performance report when you serve as permanent representative. I think that was the line of his question. You just wanted a summary.
Okay.
But you should submit that in writing.
Okay, so my last question goes to the destiny for United States. You have, as previous senators said,
neighboring countries in Africa, West Africa, very close to us here, issued to extend 5 years visas, and Liberians are the I think one of my colleagues was issued, I don't know, 1 month or 2 more, at most 3 months. We're all countries. 4 months visa. Senator. So what have you been following since your nomination to know the huge nature of the current mission that you have, when confirmed, have soon have, and second part is you are going to Washington, and the mission is represented in various states back also. How the concept works.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a regulation for the selection of honorary consul, and in fact every state, Senator, we have certain strategic areas like Atlanta, Minnesota, and so on. So those regulations call for the involvement of the missions, various missions, for example, the mission in America, and nominate. The Minister of Foreign Affairs also has the right, to nominate citizens living there, and also nominate names, for consideration. Those names sent to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and properly vetted. There's various checks including security background, like they do for ambassadors. And it is only then that what is called the exit quarter how it's done. There's a regulation. There's a new regulation now. In fact, all honorary consuls were withdrawn. And there's a clean slate now. The process, has begun as per that regulation. Visa issues are subject to reciprocity. I think if, the 5 years is able to, say 5 years for Ghana, is 5 years. Yes, I think we also should follow that principle of reciprocity. And I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working on that policy, to make sure that reciprocity means okay, but the same way you treat things, the same way I treat you.
Yes, so since this is for public information, the Committee on Foreign Affairs, we are engaged with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the committee who were informed that Liberia has taken the first step to issue 3 years visa to Americans coming to Liberia, and State Department has welcomed this development, and we are reviewing to reciprocate. This committee has been working along with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me congratulate the two nominees for their preferment by the President. I will commence very shortly with the Ambassador designate to the United States of America, Dr. Conte. The first, just two questions that are Conte. The first one I read from the first paragraph of your resume. It says, His Excellency Joseph Imabuaka, Senior Visitor of the University of Liberia, appointed Dr. Conte as acting President of the University of Liberia on June 24, 2024 to lead an interim management team of the Board of Trustees to oversee the search for a new president of the university, implement necessary reforms for the smooth running of the university. My question is, in what state, Dr. Conte, are you leaving the University of Liberia?
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. That's a very good question. When the President appointed the interim management team and authorized the Board of Trustees to implement those things, there were several things that the President wanted us to do. Number one, recruit a leader in education, search for a leader in education that can work on an endowment for the university, because that's how universities are run. The current way that we're running with the finances external to the university is not the best practice. So we want a leader now. We have a small endowment that was set up in 2008, but we want someone who can work on that. The President is going to be recruited not to sit in the office at the university, but to work to make sure that endowment. So the search process has concluded, and about 20 persons applied, some I think from around the world, so 10 outside. There were some internal candidates, and 3 qualified candidates were shortlisted, and that report has been submitted to the visitor, and the appointment is subject, of opposed to the visitor. He will make that appointment as soon as possible. Secondly, the visitor wanted us to do a comprehensive assessment of all of the 4 campuses. We have 4 campuses. We have the Capitol Hill campus, the Fenway campus, the medical campus in Sincor, and the Sinjay campus, to do a comprehensive assessment, because his view is that he wants to make the University of Liberia once and for all a world-class university. So he instructed the Minister of Public Works to work along with us to do a comprehensive assessment of what is required to improve the physical plinth of the university. The ministry is almost done with that work. That report is going to be submitted to the visitor. And my understanding is that from my conversation with the Minister of Public Works is that it is going to be a fund under the PSIP, a special fund, to be managed for once and for all, addressing all of these infrastructure deficits. But meanwhile, what we are doing as a management team with respect to the resources that we have is to begin giving a facelift of the campuses so that we can resume classes as soon as possible, because the students, the faculty have been complaining about these, the nature of the classrooms, the nature of the bathrooms, and so with the resources that we have, that process, is going to start this week, so that because we don't want, although the argument has been we want to come back to school, and while you're going on with these, but that's
Mr. Nominee.
Yes.
Did you understand the question from the senator?
Yes, I understand the question. What state we are leaving the university in?
You maybe I haven't heard that.
Before I asked
Yeah.
what state
Yes.
you were giving us specific mandate
Yes, and those are the things I'm trying to address.
to implement, to put in necessary reforms.
Right, right.
For the smooth running of the, and this as a background, there were problems at the university.
Right.
For which the former president was removed, and you were brought in as interim president.
Right.
And your mandate was to put in place some measures, some reforms, so that the university will continue to run. So I'm asking now, you have been nominated to go to the United States. What state have you completed the mandate that was given to you by the president of Liberia?
The mandate is almost complete. As I said, we have searched for a new president. That report is going on. We are almost complete with the assessment of the what the amount it would take. We're working with the Minister of Public Works to do that, to present to the president. The president wanted us to do an audit of the university, a comprehensive forensic audit. That process has started.
Mr. Nominee.
Yes.
What's the current state of the University of Liberia? Question. Appalling, good, fair? I think I'm the question from the senator.
Well, it's. I think if you consider the fact that we're still a satisfactory state, but it could be better. But it's currently, if the short answer is.
So the number of graduates report out determine the state of the University of Liberia and qualitative
conditions that we inherited, that this government inherited, age-old conditions. But I always say that those graduates go on to perform. They participate, they get their PhDs and come back. So there's something, irrespective of the state that we are in, there's something good that we are doing. So what I'm saying to you, since you want a short answer, is that it is not where, the university is not where it is right now, but it's the conditions are I would say, if you want.
Are you being diplomatic with that response?
Well,
we want something that will inform our actions here. And sorry, Senator Brown, because as chairman of this committee, I should be the last to come in with this question, but I have the latitude to intervene in between. And Mr. I've been president of the university, even though it's not a role for which you are here, but it's part of your resume you sent to us.
Right.
To say that you can perform this year. Do you know the budget for the University of Liberia appropriated by the legislature?
I think it's a little above 30 million.
Okay, so it's 33 million.
33 million, yes.
Good. How long you been acting head or interim head of the university?
Since the 24th of June.
How long?
It's a little over 3 months now.
A little over 3 months.
Yeah.
So the 33 million that we appropriated is on paper. Are you getting the cash to run the university? The reason I'm asking this question is because every time anything happens at a university, the lawmakers are not doing anything. We cannot appropriate the budget and then go disperse it. And if we appropriate and you're not getting the money, we don't know, then you come across as incompetent.
Yeah.
And every time we call you from the executive here, so we know what the budget is performing, so you can deliver, then you praise the president and shield the final ministry. Then by the time no chair at the University of Liberia, they say, what is Senator then riding car?
Yeah.
They don't talk about that 33 million and why for, whether you receiving or not. I just want you to prepare yourself. Let's go back to Senator Brown's question so I don't have Jackie's time.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Yeah, I was concerned because this University of Liberia is very, very essential, and that's why the president put it there. But anyway, let's move forward. Let's go to diplomacy. I listened to your introductions, your statement where you trace Liberia's relationship with the United States. I listened to my colleagues in the snow calling Liberia an ally of the United States. I watched a documentary almost at the end of our civil crisis. And that documentary was called Liberia, America's Stepchild. And that documentary detailed Liberia's relationship with America from the founding of our nations. In fact, with the coming of the free slaves, the founding of our nation, the civil crisis before then, and now the civil crisis of the 89s and 90s. My question to you is, I don't know whether you have watched this documentary that is called Liberia, America's Stepchild. My question is, truly, is Liberia an ally of the United States or a stepchild?
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen that documentary. It was done by one of our sisters.
A Liberian, yes.
Yes, a Liberian. I don't know. The issue of a stepchild is a metaphor, to say that it is a state that is under the protection of another state that is not treated appropriately, something like that. I think that was the message that documentary tried to, to portray. Yes, there were times